Hello, everybody. Oh man. Welcome to SHC TV. I am Secondhand Coke, and we are getting ready to start dissecting the third episode of the nightmare that is With Love, Megan. So, I, Secondhand Coke, am calling my satire with skepticism Secondhand Coke. Now, before we go any further, I'd like you to please like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave feedback in the comment section of this video. I really appreciate your ongoing support, and I love the conversations that we're having in the comment section. So I encourage everybody to please participate. I read everyone, I answer to everyone. I try to get involved in as many conversations as I can, because that's really what we're here for, is just to talk out this craziness that's unfolding before us, where somehow this lady can do everything wrong and yet somehow not yet be canceled for it. So, before we go into the details of episode 3, entitled Two Kids from LA, this one is being guest hosted by Roy Choi, Chef Roy Choi, who is joining Megan to show her how to make Korean food. And Megan just proves herself completely inept at dealing with anybody like herself, but still incredibly insistent upon making whole cities and whole cultures hers, just because she grew up in LA. And I will go into more about how she, what's the word that means to kind of commandeer someone else's culture. God, she's like the poster child to it. Well, we'll use commandeer for right now. For some reason, she has to commandeer every culture that she comes in contact with, and she will do so with Chef Roy Choi's Korean culture as well. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the absolute travesty, nightmarish bad news we got, that apparently Netflix has 8 more of these episodes up their sleeves, and they're going to put them on their platform so that people have to watch them. And the police are doing nothing about it. I don't get it. I've been asking around to try to find out what happened, and turns out people tuned in. She got the rating she needed to get to unload that last section of episodes. So when those come out, they're saying fall. I'm curious to see whether or not they come out before fall. I mean, before August 25th or not, because the contract ends August 25th. Whether they don't remove the contract but still air these 8 episodes is still a possibility, and I would say a likelihood. But definitely people watch this crap, and it has to be more than hate watching and people writing commentary and criteria on it, because that's not enough to get them in the top 10. Now, I don't know how she got it there, but she did. And so now we've got 8 more episodes. And I hope Netflix is proud of themselves. And that's all I have to say about that for right now. Then, on top of everything else, some asshole paparazzi gets a picture of Harry driving to work. I mean, just how bad can this get? Anyway, that's just a little comic relief for us here before I delve into whatever happened in this third episode. I swear, this stuff is so boring. I don't even know. If you're not watching it, good for you, because I don't know how to tell you just how boring this is. Back to the whole Netflix running the second section of the of the series, though. The best that I can find out, this is a shock to everybody. Nobody thought this was coming. I don't even think Netflix thought this was coming. But if what I understand is correct, then since Megan filmed these particular extra episodes while under the contract with Netflix, there must be some contractual obligation for Netflix to play them. And they must have capped that and said, and if you get into the top 10, then we'll add those episodes in for you. And she got into the top 10. That's what I imagine happened. I don't know, though. That is total speculation on my part. What I do know is that this has been a complete fly by the seat of your pants. Nobody knows what anybody is doing, from the top of Netflix all the way to whoever's watching Megan's children while she's baking up treats for other people's children. Um, Nobody has seen any of this coming. These changes have kind of come upon the schedule really quickly. And, I guess Megan's getting ahead in that way. And that is one of her favorite MOs. She had her babies that way. And, any opportunity she can have to make a total circus out of everything, she's going to take. So I really don't know why I'm surprised. I did go over and look at the US Patent and Trademark Office page to see if As Ever was even given a trademark yet, and it looks to me that every application they have in for it is still pending. I went through a list with you guys last week of some of the things that she was trying to sell, including like baked mixes and things like that. I've been seeing that come out a lot more, and I I think I broke that one last week, but regardless, you can see with the trademark application everything she's going for here: the bakery mixes, cookie mixes, biscuit mixes, crepes or pancakes. um, I don't know how she's going to do that, because to get space in a supermarket and to convince people to buy something like this when there are so many trusted brands already out there, that seems like a foolish endeavor to try to put her oar into and make a business out of. Also, though, she seems to have a trademark put in to use As Ever for household linen, throws, bed blankets, bedspreads, bedding in general. I can see that. Like, I can see going to a department store, and if there's an As Ever comforter or bed in a bag set that somebody likes, I could see them getting that taking off the ground. But the food items, that seems really off the wall. Speaking of walls, you can see that she's also trying to trademark As Ever for wallpaper, wall coverings of different textiles, and floor mats, bath mats, the place mats, napkins, those types of things. And again, if she's looking at like a decorative line, I can kind of see that maybe taking off, because you can store that anywhere, and if people like a design, they'll get it no matter where it's out. But I mean, if I walk into the Kroger and I have a choice of getting Betty Crocker blueberry muffin mix or As Ever blueberry muffin mix, it's not going to be As Ever that I pick. And it's not even because I don't like Meghan Markle and do not support her endeavors. It's because, there's a lot of brand trust. There's a lot of trust in food brands. And she has not done the work necessary to make it happen. And as goes with her jams, because people have their jam variety they like. They're not going to pay upwards of an arm and a leg for a brand that they've never even tasted, never have had the opportunity to taste, and that you can get that something that's just as good from your own yard if you feel about it. I mean, Megan's whole show so far has circled around her saying, "Look, this is so easy. Come on, Mindy, you can make this party for your kid for yourself. But I don't want you to have to fire the woman you're using. Yeah, but I just love being a mom. I love having my hands in their parties and celebrating them that way." And blah 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 blah. Charlie Brown trombone bone noises. Um, so yeah, I don't understand if the cooking show or the hostessing show, where they do a lot of cooking, is the infomercial for this brand, which it is. It's been supposed to be. That's been the holdup. Um, I don't understand how food things have anything to do with the trademark as ever. I don't want as ever dog biscuits. What the hell does that even mean? My dog doesn't care. Eh, I mean, I don't have a dog, but my kids do, and he's like my grand dog, and he doesn't care. He'll eat anything off the floor or wherever. So why would I pay $14 for some dog biscuits called as ever? I wouldn't. That's the point. So that's the trademark statuses for everything that she's got out pending right now. And you can see that it is still pending. So regardless of the fact that she put the application in 2 years ago, it's not approved. And so if this Netflix thing was in part a hang up because they need time for the products to be in a place where they can be sold, even if it's that, she still doesn't have a trademark. So I don't understand. I don't think they're selling her products. I think they have absolutely nothing to do with that. That's my understanding. She wants to say they're business partners in this, but that is not their stance on the baking shit. I can say that. I'd like to say I can say that for a fact, because it used to be the stuff that I heard I could say for a fact, but not anymore. Strange new world around here. Um, anyway, so that's the status of as ever. So we'll hop back over to the boring show, and I'll show you what happened with Chef Choi. And the fact that he likes death metal. Also, Megan, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Megan's alcoholism is not at all under wraps in these shows. Even Mindy Kaling commented on her having so much alcohol in the morning, and Mindy was like, "Am I going to get toasted?" Just be on the lookout. Just be on a fun drinking game. You take a drink every time you see Megan take one. Actually, I wouldn't do that. It'd be probably not very good for your liver. All right, let's move on then. All right, let's get started going over this episode. So, we start out as usual with Megan with hair flying everywhere. And, today she's not wearing white, which is a nice departure for the kitchen. And I'm sure some $1,000 piece of clothing is set not to be ruined forever, because they do make some very colorful foods in this episode. The chef that's coming is Chef Roy Choi, um, someone of pretty good reputation. And Megan, of course, points out that he's also from LA. And the only thing that she knows about him is that he loves donuts. So, of course, she has to make donuts. And that's basically all I can say for this opener here. I don't know why she had to say Chef Roy Choi's coming over when the refrigerator was open, and why the refrigerator has paneling in it, or if that's a refrigerator at all. Is that a refrigerator or a pantry? Oh shit, it's a pantry. Never mind. I can't critique that. Never mind. But anyway, so the first thing she's going to do is make donuts. Now, one thing that would make these interminably long episodes, they're like 38 minutes each, my God, go down a little easier is if, like, at the beginning she put up an agenda or something and said, okay, today we have Chef Roy Choi, we're gonna be making donuts, crudite, um, Korean fried chicken, and I don't know, I'm probably going to throw some flowers that you can eat all over everything. So if she would do something like that, it would help make it a little bit more palatable for me, at least. Apparently other people are watching this crap, but for me, that would help a lot. Okay, I think I managed to put the high points, so to speak, of the baking donut section. Yes, she bakes them onto one slide for us to scornfully stare at while we go through each of her steps. Of course, she's sifting out flour and then says, letting it snow, which I'm sure she's let it snow already today, if you know what I mean. Then she reveals that she thinks baking donuts would be a safer option for her first time at donut making. So it's her first job making donuts. But then she says she once had a job at a donut shop. And one of these things doesn't sound like it works with the other. So is this your first time making donuts, or did you spend a lot of time making donuts, Megan? What was it like? Or did you just work the counter? I mean, because I thought you worked at a yogurt shop. No one in your family remembers you working at all. You've except for doing calligraphy, sorta. Um, anyway, you guys can reconcile that for me if you want to. What do you think? Do you think she actually had a job is there a donut shop called Little Orbit Donuts, first of all? That's the first thing we've got to uncover. And then we've got to reconcile the fact that she says she's never made a donut with the fact that she apparently worked at a donut shop, with the fact that she's never mentioned this donut shop before now, even though she's told us her life story about 18 times, and said that she worked at a yogurt shop because her family was just so destitute. Um, I don't know what to think. As ever, I don't know what to think with her. Um, so she's putting donuts into a baking pan, and I have a problem with that. I mean, Jesus, Megan, put them in an air fryer. Like, put this doesn't have to be hard. Get a big, heat up some oil and fry them. It'll be fine. It'll be faster and easier and taste better and be less healthy for you. It'll be everything a donut should be. Anyway, so she takes them out of the oven and she sings her own praises. That's pretty great, I have to say. I think they look a little too light in color myself, but I'm not the one serving them to a famous chef, so I'm not going to sweat it. Um, she does glaze them, but then, of course, she has to sprinkle weeds all over them. And that seems like a theme for this entire series. She should have named the series Sprinkling Weeds, or In the Weeds, or something with weeds, because that's all she's ever doing is dealing with edible flowers. Oh, notice too that she's using her trick that she showed us last time about cutting a hole in the bottom of a plastic Ziploc bag to squirt your pastries or your cake decorations wherever you want to. So she's still breaking ground with that revelation. All right, we'll move on to the next section. Not Coach Roy, but Chef Roy is getting ready to walk in the house. Can you believe it? I can. I saw it, and now I'm looking at it again. But before we go ahead to Chef Roy Choi, this little interaction happened that I wanted to tell you about. Michael, who is one of the crew people that is producing this show with her in the kitchen, suggests off camera, maybe add this to your surprise breakfast stuff with your kids. Now, I don't know what surprise breakfast stuff he's talking about. I'm assuming that he and she have had some off camera conversation where she's going to surprise Archie and Betty with breakfast, I guess. Um, Again, I don't know how there is a breakfast surprise ever, but surprise breakfasts seem to be a thing. There was one in Invictus and apparently one in the Markle house. So there's that. I'm Sussex now. Not to me. So yeah, Megan's like, oh, my kids would love this for breakfast. What kid wouldn't want this for breakfast? But I get the opinion, or I'm of the opinion, that her kids aren't getting donuts for breakfast. And that made me think, wait, sometimes I used to give my kids donuts for breakfast. I still do. Are kids not supposed to have donuts for breakfast? Like, I thought breakfast was donuts were a breakfast food. Have I gone totally off the wall here? Like, I thought you ate donuts for breakfast like that sometimes. I mean, not every day, but sometimes. Why can't Archie and Betty have donuts? Maybe it's because they're not real, but I don't know why. I don't know why they can't have donuts for surprise breakfast. I'm fighting for you, Archie and Betty. I'm sorry. If I were your mom, you could have donuts for breakfast. Okay, so now we see the man, the myth, and the legend. Megan explains to us, Meg explains that Roy Choi is he's an iconic LA chef, and Korean food is a staple of Los Angeles culture. She goes into quite a bit of detail and quite puts quite a bit of effort into, first of all, stating that Korean food, how closely Korean food is tied to LA culture, and then how much she was immersed in LA, in Korean culture, because she's from LA, and of course, so that means she owns LA, and Koreans were in LA, so she owns Koreans. She gets to appropriate them. Um, uh, a little later on, she goes and actually talks about her mom and the Korean spa, and we get that story again. And then finally, she goes all teacher's petty and tries and shows her donuts that she made for them, which the coloring does not look right to me. I don't know. But I mean, he's like, oh, thanks. That looks great. I appreciate it. And she's like, and I made you some matcha. How great. And the whole interaction with them is him essentially being himself and her searching for a self to be. And that's pretty much the dynamic. Like, he says things to her and she gets shocked, and then it's like, well, I think this, and then really, I mean, she is really struggling or being around a person who has a very strong personality, who's not totally fangirling her. And it's kind of that is interesting to watch. It's not interesting enough for you to turn it on and put it on Netflix and watch it, because dear God, don't make them roll out another 8 episodes on us. We've all learned our lesson. But it is an interesting dynamic there, because she has no concept of what to do when faced with somebody who is settled in who they are and are fine with who they are and happy with who they are. And it just really shines through. So Chef Choi shows up, and I liked him a lot actually. I felt like he had a good energy to himself, and um, the first thing he says is like, I was just kind of blown away by the fact that you even asked me to do this show. Now Megan, who doesn't have a good energy about herself, as we know, um, first of all had to play trivia time and ask, "Did you know that LA is the donut capital of the world?" And he was like, yeah, whatever. And then she kind of changed tacks and says, but I've been working diligently so that I can sous chef for you, or so that she can be sous chefing for him. Because it's a verb now. I guess anything can be a verb if you want it really hard. Um, so that's what happened there with uh, his arrival. And the kind of look, I mean, people have already been had noticed just from the preview the type of looks that she gives him during this episode. I think that these are entirely because he turns out to be somebody who's very secure in who he is, and I think I've said this, but and she, as we know, is not very secure in who she is. And so when he turns out not to be as expected, she can't handle that. Also, he's getting ready to insult something near and dear to her heart, and it is hilarious when it happens. And let's go ahead and deal with it on the next slide. So, we know that in every episode of this horrible show so far, and I've only watched these three so far, so I'm not sure if it goes beyond this, but Megan has featured a episode theme specific crudité platter for everything. Like everything is crudité for her. And she starts going through the list of what she and Chef Choi are going to make. And she says, we're going to make pickles. And I thought maybe you could show me how to make your Korean fried chicken and a crudité platter. And then Chef Choi comes in and says, crudités are everywhere. They're boring. And then Megan goes into her line, which is, well, we serve them with ranch dressing because it's how to get the kids to eat vegetables. So I can make a nice. We could do something exciting with it. And then he says, well, maybe make your really great crudités and then have this as a dip. It goes from there. But she is not happy with having her crudité platters and salted. That's her signature dish, I think, is cutting up vegetables and making them look like things somewhat. So that was a pretty satisfying scene. So we get another scene with an interaction with the crew. If you remember from the second episode, I believe there was some, like, she had gotten them up early. It was the one she hadn't made Mindy any breakfast or anything, and so they were up and out early. And she's like, "You guys should eat some dirty blueberries if you feel like it." And they just kind of look like, "Thanks," but the guy that's inside, and then I think the crewmen from outside have come inside for this and subsequent episodes, unless she goes wandering in a garden again. But this guy, which I don't, his name, for some reason, she's like, come on, Brooklyn, try this. You like garlic, right? Try this. And I don't think his name is Brooklyn. Maybe he comes from Brooklyn, and so that's an nickname for him. I don't know. But she like really tries to get this guy to try this hot pepper. And then once he tries it, she starts, laughing at him. I knew you were going to start sweating. I knew it. Your glasses are foggy, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, something flew into my eye. To me, maybe they have that kind of relationship. So, I'm putting it in there and I'm talking about it derisively, but I don't know. He seemed like a good enough sport, but it just made me wonder, like, what the dynamic was behind that, really, if she and he had this kind of joking relationship, or if she was just being princess pushy, like she's been rumored to be. I don't know, and we can't really tell from this one little scene, but it is something for us to kind of think about and comment about if we're so motivated. So it certainly wouldn't be out of character for her to push something on somebody and then make fun of them for it. So there you go. Maybe that's another example. Maybe it's just an innocent interaction. So they go along making things. Megan brines the chicken. She's apparently very perplexed that chicken can have milk as part of the brine, which I've always used milk brining my chicken. I can't believe this is a new thing for her. And I'm from the South. I've brined my fair share of fried chicken. But anyway, so once she learns to accept that, um, they start kind of putting together things for the kimchi, and they're talking about how they're going to make the kimchi. And then Roy says, like, then we'll make a beautiful crudité platter. And Megan is still on it. Like, she's still pissed, and she's like, "You said crudité platters are boring," and then he's like, "I didn't know that crudités were a huge trigger for you. I mean, I really got scared because the LA came out of you," and they both are kind of laughing it off. But I'm sitting there thinking, like, really, you're still hooked on the crudité pot? I mean, they are boring, Megan. I mean, it's vegetables with dip in the center. I mean, you can. I don't need to tell you guys what crudité is and how unexciting it is as a dish. They can look cool, I guess, but geez. Anyway, so yeah, the crudité issue is still not settled, and I think this is part of what triggers the whole her giving him that nasty look when he says he enjoys listening to like heavy metal when he cooks. So let's go ahead and take a look at that scene, and then I've got a couple of others, and then we'll get the hell away from this episode of the show because it's already been given more attention than it deserves, I'm sure. I decided not to show the scene where they have the showdown about him listening to metal music and her giving him that awful look. There's another example of her giving a hateful look a little bit later, but so I'll just cover that one since with the other examples already been linked and discussed online, and I haven't seen this next one I'm going to show you. But for now, the food is coming together. It looks really delicious. And one thing I'll say for this food, this and Korean food in general, is that the colors are just amazing. So once I start, I'm going to do at least one slide with just all of the colors and the plating of this food, because it really does look beautiful. Um, at one point, so the chicken comes out and Megan tastes a little bit, and she kind of, rocks back and forth dancing, type of, saying it's good. And then the Chef Choi makes a comment about her dancing. And then she says, "Yeah, this is good." And I bring this up because it's the only time I've ever heard Megan say something that sounds like a parent. She says, "My daughter does the same thing. When she likes what she's eating, she sways a little bit." And I thought, oh my God, finally, we have a story from Meghan and Harry, from Meghan, that actually sounds like she's interacting with a little kid. Because kids do, they all have little quirky things like that where, they just thoughtlessly have a physical or vocal joyful reaction to what they're eating, or if they see something that intrigues them, just because they haven't learned to filter those behaviors out yet. And this is the only story I've ever heard her tell that makes me think, yeah, she's a mom, she's got a kid. Let me know how you feel about it, because it was actually a nice little sweet story that kind of made me think about some of the things I noticed about my own kids. So I'm curious to know what you think about it, and or am I making too much of a big deal out of it? I don't know. But let's look at one other thing that I want to show you here, or maybe a couple more things other than the just beauty of the food itself. Okay, so this is just something I'm noticing during these episodes. I'm not going to draw any conclusions about it, but you'll remember yesterday the Mindy Kaling episode, or if you've watched that part of that episode of my show here, you'll know. Otherwise, I encourage you to hop on over there and watch episode 2 of this series once you get finished with this one with Mindy Kaling. But this woman like does not conceal her alcohol consumption, and she's at it during the day. Like Mindy said something like, this is the earliest I've ever had alcohol in my life. And then there are two occasions in this where she is knocking them back too. With the beer here, she offers him some beer and he wants it. And then here, this is the kind of an evil looking look here. Then she has, offers another drink going, and he asks for champagne. And so she's like, yes, chef, with that a really kind of scary look on her face. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm seeing a trend develop over these episodes as I tread through every one of them. And I don't know. She's got her drink going on. That's for sure. No judgment here. Just noticing. That's all. Okay, so we will end with a collage of all the beautiful food that they did make. If that chicken just looks like it turned out beautifully. The vegetables are so colorful, and while I don't remember when I watched this having any scene where they had the whole plate and where they sat down and ate and drank together. I must have fallen asleep when I watched it. But I did see, these this examples of just absolutely beautiful food. So I'm sure a crudité platter probably looked nicer than even before. So um, we don't ever see a picture of it, but there's enough colors there that really would have stood out and been nice. And I'm not taking Megan's side. I'm just saying that this is beautiful food. Um, so yeah. Okay, everybody, that's all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave any feedback in the comments. I am learning a new way to integrate audio in. So if I need to tweak anything there, or if something glitches that I can't hear on my end, that's bothering you, please be sure to let me know, because I am still learning how to do YouTube, and it is definitely a work in progress. If you would also please come back for episode 4, in which our special guest is Delphine Blackiera, and I think she is Nacho's wife, the Nacho the polo polo player, Nacho the polo player, Harry's friend. So that's what we'll be dealing with then. I appreciate you all joining me. I appreciate all your support and goodwill, and I will appreciate seeing you next time you join me. Thank you very much, and have a great day.